اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome back for the second session of Qur'an Made Easy. In the last session, we talked about the theory of three types of words in Arabic, or three categories of words in Arabic: ism, fi'l, and harf. We'll start with a recap of that. So let's start with the easiest one, harf. It's a word that makes no sense unless another word comes after it. Fi'l is a word that is stuck in the past, present, or future. It's an action word and it has a built-in doer. And ism, that's probably the most comprehensive one, which you should know the 7 subcategories of. Well, first of all, there's 4 components of ism, and that's status, number, gender, and type, which we haven't touched yet. But generally, the definition has 7 subcategories, which is person, place, thing, idea, adjectives, adverbs, and more. Person, place, thing, idea, adjectives, adverbs, and more. You might be wondering what the more category is, but I think I did touch upon it in the last session. It's basically pronouns. And pronouns are things like he, she, you, or they, etc. But we don't need to touch on that in detail. So we'll kick off with where we left off in the exercise last time. And I'll just share my screen. We did half of this table. I do want to complete it. I don't want to just leave things undone. And the reason is I want this to become second nature, and not just something that you know one time. So let's start off with assalamu. That's where we left off last time. So let me just get my board. Okay. So assalamu, is this an ism, fi'l, or a harf? I said last time the word, if you see al, it's a big giveaway that it will be a ism. Upon, ala, doesn't make sense unless another word comes after it. So that would be a harf. Kum, so this is an example of a pronoun. So anything that's you or he or she, first, second, or third person, then it all comes in the ism category, and they're all called pronouns as well. So that's an ism. Rabbi, which means Lord. That's a name, so that would be an ism. Al-alamina, al-alamina, it means the universe. So the you can see the part al makes it the, and that makes an ism category. Min, it's a harf. Hum, as I said, they is a pronoun. All pronouns are an ism category. Yansuru, yansuru, he is helping. So you see the phrase he is in brackets, and that signifies a built-in doer into the word itself. And we know helping is stuck in the tense, so it will be the present tense. So anything that's in a tense is a fi'l. The light is a thing, or things are ism. Man, a man is a ism. Here's another hack to see if it's an ism straight away. If it has a tanween, just circle it. Sorry. If it has a tanween, then you know it's an ism, because no fi'ls or harf will have tanweens on. Sabara, he was patient. He was patient. That seems to be in the tense, that's a fi'l. And he is huwa. Huwa is a pronoun. All pronouns are in the ism category. So that concludes lesson 1, which we started on Thursday. So we now want to go to lesson 2. Okay, so in this lesson, the objective is to dive in a little bit more detail on the status component of the ism category. So we're ignoring fi'ls and huruf for now, and we're only concentrating on one component of ism category, and that's called status. And as we already know, there's 4 properties in ism: status, number, gender, and type. And we're going to explain rafa' and nasab status form. So rafa' and nasab are 2 components of the component of status. So we saw this in the last session. Every ism has 4 components: status, number, gender, and type. Status, you can also say, is i'rab in Arabic. If you want to define status, ism status is about the position or rank an ism has within a sentence. In Arabic, this status is called i'rab. It sounds a bit conceptual at this moment, but as soon as you see an example, then it will be easy to understand. There are 3 forms of ism status. So we need to memorize these and know it by heart. One is the dua, which is also called rafa'. The other is the detail, which is called nasab in Arabic. And the other is after of, which is called jar. One thing I like to mention is that sometimes when you're starting out in Arabic and you pluck up the courage to look at some of the resources, perhaps online or on books, and you want to start learning Arabic, you come across English terminology, really complicated terminology, such as accusative or nominative or genitive. These words, I don't even know what they mean in English, to be honest. So what we're doing here is really simplifying the language down. And we're not using words like accusative and nominative and things like that. We're using simple words like dua, the detail, and after of. The dua, there's always a dua in a sentence. So someone or something is doing something, and there's a detail of a sentence. And sometimes there's an after of, which I can explain in a while. Like I said, in Arabic, rafa' means the dua, but you can also say marfu', the one who is doing something. So when you add the mar in front, it's the one who is doing the rafa'. Nasab, in the same way, mansub is the one who's doing nasab, and majroor is the one who's doing jar. But for now, let's just say rafa', nasab, jar. So now we're going to look at an English sentence. Hassan ate lunch quickly outside yesterday. And what we're going to do, we're going to find the rafa' status in this sentence. So the first question, and you might want to write this down on your handout, the first question you should be asking yourself is, what is the action in this sentence? What is the action of this sentence? Clearly the action is ate, which is why it has a triangular shape. The next question you need to ask yourself, and if you can write this down, is who is doing the action? Who is doing the action? And once you find out who is doing the action, then that is the dua, that is rafa'. So the rafa' status of this sentence is clearly Hassan. Why? Because Hassan is doing the eating. Hassan ate. The action is ate, and Hassan ate. And the rest is just details. Lunch. He ate lunch. He ate it quickly. And he ate it outside. And he ate it yesterday. So you can say the lunch quickly outside yesterday is nasab, details, but we can talk about that a little bit later. Like I said, it often answers the question, who did the action? And Hassan is the doer of the action. Therefore, Hassan is rafa' in status. Okay. Before I do the Quranic examples, let's just give some more English examples. I think that would be more pertinent. So if I was to write, he buys chocolate. He buys chocolate. What's the action word in this sentence? It will be buys, because someone is doing the buying. So that will be, say that's the fi'l. But this lesson is all about trying to find the rafa', the doer. So who's doing the buying in this sentence? Clearly it's he. So therefore he is the rafa'. Try another sentence. My teacher explains concepts. First question, what's the action in the sentence? The action word. Explains, yeah? That's the fi'l. So therefore, who's doing the explaining? Who's doing the explaining? Teacher. So therefore, teacher is rafa'. So that should be simple enough. Let's do one more, just so that it hits home. Sorry. Allah forgives everyone. What's the action in this sentence? Clearly it's forgives, and who's doing the forgiving? And therefore, whoever you find is doing the forgiving is rafa' in status. So therefore, the word Allah is rafa'. Lafzul jalala rafa'. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So we can now move on to some more Quranic examples. So in the following phrases, circle the rafa' status words, the doer of the action. So let's look at the first one. Allah created you all. The Arabic equivalent is khalaqakum. Wallah, sorry, should be wallahu khalaqakum. Let me just get the right slide up. For some reason, it's different slide, but okay, so let's look at the English anyway. Allah created you all. What is the action word? It will be created. So therefore, the doer will be the word Allah. If you ignore the Arabic on that one for now, the words are the wrong way around. So if you look at the second example, Allah has heard. Sami Allahu. Sami Allahu. So the action word is heard. And who's doing the hearing? The word Allah. So therefore, the word Allah is rafa'. Third one, so the angels prostrated. The Arabic should be fasajada al-malaikatu. So the angels prostrated. The action word is prostrated. So who's doing the prostrating? Will be the angels. Therefore, angels is rafa'. Ignore the Arabic circle, it should be on malaika. Okay, the messenger has believed. Amana rasulu. The messenger has believed. The action word is believed. It's stuck in the past tense, so that's the fi'l. And who's doing the believing? Clearly, it's the messenger. So therefore, ar-rasulu rafa'. So in all four examples, you can clearly see what is the action word and who's doing that action. The first two examples, the word Allah, rafa', and the third example is the angels, al-malaika, And the last example, the messenger, is rafa. Okay, next we'll move on to nasab. This is the detail of a sentence. The questions you should be asking yourself whenever you see a sentence is what, where, when, why, and how. If it answers any of these questions, then it's very likely it's going to be in nasab status. Okay, so mark the status of the highlighted words with rafa and nasab in these examples. So we've got 6 examples here. Before we do that, let's just look at some of the English of Hassan sentence. Okay, so we saw this. Hassan ate lunch quickly outside yesterday. We know Hassan is rafa, ate is the doing word. So what is nasab? So the questions, we know lunch quickly outside yesterday are all nasab, but I want you to go through the process. And the process is, who's doing what. So Hassan is doing the action, rafa. Ate is the action, so that's the fi'l. And therefore, what is Hassan doing? So he's eating lunch. So lunch, what is he eating? So he's eating lunch, nasab 1. How is he eating it? He's eating it quickly. That's nasab 2. So that answers the how question. So when you look at the word outside, what question could you ask? Where is he eating it? So he's eating it outside. That's nasab 3. And if you look at the word yesterday, what question could you make from that? When did he eat it? So when you ask the question what, when, how, or where, then all of these questions signify details, and all details of a sentence are nasab. I want to get you into practice of not just looking at sentences, but listening to them and then trying to find the rafa and nasab the rafa and nasab status of those sentences. So if I can just read out a couple of sentences and then you can think in your mind what status they are. So if I was to say, he buys shawarmas for his class sometimes. He buys shawarmas for his class sometimes. What would be the rafa and nasab? Okay, so the first question you need to be asking yourself is, what's the action word? He buys shawarmas for his class sometimes. What's the action word? Buys. Buys is the action word. That's the fi'l. The next question you need to be asking yourself is, who is doing the buying? He buys shawarmas for his class sometime. He. So he is rafa. So buys is the fi'l. He is the rafa. Now you need to ask yourself, what's the nasab? How do you find out what nasab is? You need to ask the right questions of what, where, when, or how. He buys shawarmas. So shawarmas answers the what, because what is he buying? For his class. So that could answer the question of, who does he buy it for? So he buys shawarmas for his class sometimes. When does he buy it? That could be sometimes. So shawarmas is nasab, for his class is nasab, and sometimes is also nasab. Give you one more English example. Okay, he doesn't like vegetables or fruits. Doesn't like vegetables or fruits. So the first question is, what's the action word? He doesn't like vegetables or fruits. Who's doing the not like? So the not liking, the doesn't like is the action. Who's doing the not liking? He. So that's the rafa. He doesn't like vegetables or fruits. So the vegetables or fruits is what he doesn't like. So vegetables or fruits is nasab. So I hope that's clear. Now we move on to Quranic examples of nasab. Okay, we want to find the rafa and nasab of these ayats. Allah intends for you ease. Yuridullahu bikumul yusra. Yuridullahu bikumul yusra. Let's look at the English on the first one. What's the action word? It seems to be intends. So who's doing the intending? Clearly it's Allah. So Allah is rafa. And then for you, ease is nasab. So ease is nasab. So therefore, Allahu rafa' al-yusra nasab. And Sulaiman inherited David. What's the action word in that? Inherited. Wawaritha. And Sulaiman inherited David. So who's doing the inheriting? It will be Sulaiman, as highlighted in the Arabic. And who's the inheritance from? Dawood. So that's nasab. Now, just on a side point, and we'll cover this more in the next lesson or maybe in a lesson after, is that in English, in order to differentiate the status, so the status is in sequential order when it comes to English. So Allah, the word Allah is rafa', and then ease it comes after, the nasab comes after the rafa'. Same in the second example. However, in Arabic, that's not necessarily the case, even though in these two examples, it is the case. But in Arabic, it depends on the ending sound of it. So therefore, if it's an u sound or an sound, it determines whether it's a rafa' or nasab. So the u sound here is the rafa' and the sound is nasab. That doesn't mean that you now pick up the mushaf and every single dhamma that you see in the Quran means it's rafa', and every single fatha in the Quran you see it's nasab. That's not necessarily the case, but for now, just remember rafa' is generally an u sound, u or a un, and nasab is generally an or a un sound, generally speaking. Third example, Allah struck an example. Action word is struck. So therefore, who's doing the striking metaphorically on this occasion? So clearly Allah is rafa'. The word Allah is rafa'. And nasab is mathalan, which means example, because that's the detail of the ayah. Fourth example, so that Allah may reward the truthful ones. So that Allah may reward the truthful ones. So the action word is reward. And who's doing the rewarding? Once again, lafzul jalala, Allah rafa'. And the truthful ones is nasab. Fifth example, and remember when Abraham was raising the foundations. And when Abraham was raising the foundations. Action word seems to be raising. So who's doing the raising? Ibrahim alayhi salam. I think in Arabic, this got it the wrong way around here. So ignore the Arabic for now, just focus on the English. Ibrahim rafa', foundation nasab. And the final one on here, and Dawood killed Jalut by the permission of Allah. So the action word is killed. Who's doing the killing? Dawood alayhi salam. Therefore, Dawood alayhi salam is rafa'. And who got killed? That's the detail. And that would be nasab, which is Jalut. Now, just to emphasize the importance of the ending sounds in Arabic, just to emphasize how important this is, Dawudu has an u sound, right? And that's rafa'. Therefore, you know Dawood is doing an action. Qatala is the action word, so Dawood killed. Jaluta is a detail, so therefore Jalut was the one that was killed. Imagine if I said Dawuda Jalutu. That would mean Jalut. That would mean completely opposite meaning. It would mean Jalut. Sorry, Jalut killed Dawood alayhi salam, which completely was the opposite of what happened. Whereas in English, it's just about sequential order. So whoever comes first did the action, and whoever comes last was the done on to. So, but in Arabic, it's all about the ending sounds, and we can cover more of that in the next lesson. Okay, let's now go on to Fatiha like we did yesterday. Okay, let's mainly focus on the English here, because it'd be easier to point out the Rafa and Nasab on that. Okay, so first one, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. All praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds. What is due to Allah? Praise. So therefore praise is Rafa on this occasion. And also it has an U sound here. And we know it's an ism, so that would be in Rafa status. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, this is a continuation, so there's no Rafa and Nasab in that, so let's skip that. Malik Yawmiddin, same thing. Iyaka na'budu, it is you we worship. What's the action word? Worship. And who's doing the worshipping? We. So we is Rafa. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم إذا صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب. Okay, we can leave that. So I think we'll leave it there. The main thing you want to get from this lesson is there are 4 components to an ism category: status, number, gender, and type. We focused in on status, and we particularly dive deeply into the Rafa and Nasab. There's also a jar status, which we haven't quite touched yet. But Rafa is the doer of the sentence. Nasab is the detail of the sentence. How do you find out what the Rafa is? You find the action word first of a sentence, and therefore whoever's doing the action is Rafa, and whatever the detail is of that sentence is, as a result of the action, are the Nasab. And Nasab can be multiple, and that Rafa usually just the one. We then touched upon the point that in English, the Rafa and Nasab depends on sequential order, but in Arabic it depends on ending sounds, which we'll go into more in detail in the next session, inshallah. So on that, we'll leave it there. Any questions, if you can just post it on the Telegram or YouTube channel. I don't think there were any questions at all from the last session, which I guess is a good thing, which means you all understand it, inshallah. So until next time, أقول قولي هذا. بارك الله لي ولكم في القرآن الحكيم ونفعني وإياكم بالآيات والذكر الحكيم.